How about our families? Your truck wreck and brain injury lawyers are speaking with the owner of the law offices of Nicoal Sperrazza. Nicole's a powerhouse entrepreneur, attorney, and advocate for families. She specializes in divorce and family law. And she is here to talk to us about her journey in opening her law firm, what it's like to be a client, and how she truly stands out from other family and divorce attorneys out there, and a training tidbit that everybody needs to know about that's going to really help out the community. So we're so excited to have you. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I want to start out. You have just so many accolades that you have. You're president of the Denver Bar Association. You've created this amazing law firm that's helping so many families. But what we really want to know about is how it all started. Tell us about your journey in deciding to open up this law firm, and some of the challenges that you faced in getting to where you are today.
I think that it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people, and I get the question a lot, like, why did you want to start your law firm? What made you want to always be your own boss? And I, I have to be honest, like, I never really set out in law school to open my own law firm. I always thought that I would be perfectly happy, working for a law firm, not necessarily punching a clock because we work more hours than that, but doing what everybody envisions being a lawyer is. But I think in hindsight, it was kind of a culmination of a lot of things that happened to happen. And it goes back to even before starting law school. When I went into law school, I'm a first generation immigrant. So my mom immigrated here from South Korea. And so she doesn't have a great handle on the language at the time that she was growing up there. Unless you came from a wealthy family, women weren't allowed to go past the fifth grade education. So education was very, very important to her. It was always a cornerstone of what she wanted for her daughters, me and my sister, because she never got that opportunity to have education. So when they immigrated here, education was always at the forefront. But when I walked into law school, I didn't know a single soul. I didn't know a single attorney. I didn't know a single judge. I didn't know anybody who had ever worked at a law firm before. And so it was something that I felt when I first started law school that, I'm starting behind the eight ball. I need to get out there. I need to become involved. I need to get to know people. And I really prioritize that. I really prioritize being a part of organizations, being liaisons to, barred organizations. Such as like I attended my first Colorado Women's Bar Association conference when I was in law school. I got a student scholarship to attend. So I really prioritized kind of getting to know people because I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, but also just that I was behind. And I think that really did end up serving me because even now in my practice, a lot of the referrals that I get are from the legal community, are from my old law school friends, are from, people that I've known for, I've been practicing 13 years at this point that, I've known for 13 plus years, right? In organizations that I was a part of. So that's a really special part that I feel like people sometimes don't value, especially when you're in law school, because you think, okay, the goal is to get a job. The goal is to have an internship or a law clerkship or, work for a judge or something like that. And people don't necessarily understand that, that is your biggest basis of potential clients and referrals in the future because you're all in the same place at the same time, going through the same strife, I will put it. So after I was out of law school, I worked for different firms. I kind of wasn't quite sure where I wanted to be. I did a lot of civil litigation. And then I ended up being exposed to family law. I loved it. I did take a brief little uh, gap, I would say, in my third year of practicing. I still worked remotely for a firm here in Denver, but I moved to Kansas City because I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to be a lawyer anymore because it was very stressful. It took a lot of my time, and I just hadn't found an area yet that I was passionate about. And so during that gap time, I realized that like law is what I want to do. Like I really missed the stimulation. I really missed the critical thinking. And quite frankly, I felt like I was getting a little stale, just like generally in my everyday life. And so I ended up coming back to Colorado, working full time as a lawyer again, started in family law, loved it, had a fantastic mentor. and was able to work with her for 2 years while she was, on the heels of her retirement. And then my law firm ended up closing 2 weeks before I was due to give birth. So that kind of prompted the question of, okay, well, what am I going to do? It's a little late for me to jump into bed with another firm. And so I ended up opening my own law firm within 2 weeks. It was pretty stressful at the time, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't take it back for a single second. It really gave me the opportunity to plant some seeds and see them grow and kind of grow it into what I believe and what I prioritize that I think a work-life balance should be. And that's a really unique gift to have and to give to your employees, right? And kind of prioritizing what you think is a healthy work environment, what you believe is appropriate for, paid time off, all of those things that maybe, especially in the legal field, those structures are already set pretty stringently around you to be able to have the freedom to craft your own and what you believe promotes a good workplace environment and people who want to come to work every day. It's an incredible opportunity and a gift that I'm really thankful for at this point.
I think that's fantastic. One of the great things about being an entrepreneur and owning your firm is you are truly creating the law firm that you want to work at and that also you would want to represent you should you need the services. So you're creating it in your image. And that's what really makes you stand out. And I want you to talk about what it's like to be a client of ours because you really bring in your personal background to this. You are a mother. You understand the juggling of work and life. You can really commiserate with your clients, and so it's a really unique experience to be a client at your law firm. And I'd love for you to share what is it like when someone picks up the phone and calls you and becomes a client. What is the experience that they have that is so unique from any other family or divorce law firm?
I think what's a few things are different at least, and I think that's informed kind of with my background and where what my experience is in. I was always in customer service since I was 16 years old. I grew up in Summit County, so a resort town. And most of the jobs up there are customer service based. My very first job was pushing in carts as a courtesy clerk at the Safeway in Frisco. And then also working at the outlet stores in Silverthorne and Dillon. Dillon outlet stores are no more, but working in, those customer service types of jobs, as well as at a restaurant in Frisco, at one of the hotels. And so I've always been in a customer service based environment. Even through college, I worked at Nordstrom, I worked at a Hampton Inn. And so customer service has always been really important to me and something that I think was instilled to me early on. So I think that is a little bit different when you do come to my law firm, is that I do prioritize and I will make time for our clients. Whether that's, you need to check in for 15 minutes, you need to check in for half an hour. Oh my goodness, something happened. Um, we are going to prioritize that. And I think the special balance that we have been able to craft is kind of, how do you handle your clients' emergencies with your own boundaries, that you need to be the best lawyer that you can be or be the best mother that you can be and things of that nature. And I just quite frankly have an amazing client base. And I think part of that comes from the vulnerability that we share with each other. Like, for example, if I have a sick day with my kiddo, I'm a single mom. I don't have another person to kind of put my kid with for the daytime when he's sick. And so I give my clients the option. I say, hey, I have a sick kid home with me. He's usually pretty good at entertaining himself. I'm happy to reschedule for tomorrow if, that's what works best for you, or I'm happy to keep our meeting today as long as you don't mind a possible interruption or two. And there's no hiding the ball there. It's just a very clear and very transparent conversation. And, most of my clients are like, yeah, let's do today. Like, that's totally fine. That's the world that I live in. That's the life that I have to lead. And I feel like that's another part of at least the legal profession that we have shuttered behind closed doors for so often, right? You have to present in a certain fashion. You cannot let your personal life ever impede, your profession because it'll affect your professionalism. And I feel like that's just a really almost harmful misnomer that I don't walk that line with my clients because I also don't want them to walk that line with me, right? Things are going to get messy. Things are going to get hard. This is a very difficult transition in your life. And there's going to be a lot of emotions that's involved. And that's okay, right? So I do have ground rules with my clients. One of them is, if it is a true emergency, you should be calling 911. You should not be calling me, right? Because the courts are closed on the weekends anyway. There's nothing really I can do. So that's one of the things that I do want to prioritize. If it is a true emergency, you should be calling the police. You should be calling 911. Another thing though is that, I will always make time for my clients. I will always squeeze you in. It's important for me, even if it's, hey, I'm going to be in the car, but I know that you want to talk. I can give you 15 minutes while I'm in the car because I have a packed day. Will that work? Right? And kind of opening that level of communication that maybe instead of it just being a no, giving my clients the option to, like it might not be me sitting in my office in front of my desk taking notes all the time, but if you need to check in because something happened, I will find time for you. So I think that also makes it a little bit different. I also really take pride in what I do, which I know is kind of a weird thing to say, and I don't mean it like in a cheeky way, but I feel like a lot of times and a lot of in our profession in particular, like I'm not here to just punch a clock and to get out a bill, right? Like I take clients who I'm very passionate about, who I want to set up for success in the future, that I want to be able to close a chapter and be able to start a healthier part of their lives. And that's what gets me up in the morning. And that's why I take pride in what I do. I love what I do. I love helping people. And I think it's a really unique place to be in, to be able to provide a real change in the life of not just my client, but their family too. And so I'm really passionate about what I do and I take pride in what I do. And I think that there's really no substitution for that type of a passion, right? Like, and quite frankly, that's also why I left civil litigation. I had a partner come into my office that said, "Hey, were you able to sleep last night?" And I said, "Yeah, I slept fine." And he said, "I couldn't sleep last night. I was doing SEC work at the time, securities work, and that I wasn't able to sleep last night. Our clients are going to lose their livelihoods and everything that they've worked for their entire lives." And I just looked at him and I said, "Okay, so maybe they lose their yacht." Like, and at that moment, I realized that I would never be the best at securities because I lacked the empathy. I lacked the passion, the empathy for my clients. And that was one of the reasons why ended up going to Kansas City and kind of more or less working remotely, but taking kind of a hiatus for a year, because I realized that I want to be the best at what I do, but I have to be passionate in order to be the best at what I do. And this isn't it. Like, this ain't it. So luckily I fell into family law and I take pride in what I do. I like what I do. I like being good at what I do. And from firsthand experience, there's just no substitution for that type of a passion.
Absolutely. And you left out a very critical thing that you do that stands you apart is you're an educator. You're teaching people all the time, whether it's other
Mhm.
attorneys as a mentor capacity or the community at large, about family law, about divorce. A lot of people don't know about it until they have to go through it. And kind of the
Mhm.
same what I say when someone's in a catastrophic wreck. You have no idea what the next steps are, and they need
Yeah.
to be educated what the next five steps are just so they can see in front of their face and plan for the future. You're the same. You're an educator when someone comes to you. And so I know you have a wealth of things to talk about with regards to family law or divorce law, but I would love for you to share some just training tidbits that really anybody in the community should know about.
So, one of the things that I am passionate about is access to justice. I volunteer quite a bit with Metro Volunteer Lawyers. I think it is a priority for me, especially coming from, my mother being an immigrant and not having resources when she first immigrated here, or not knowing about it, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And so I do try to prioritize giving back to the greater community, regardless of their financial background or resources or things that they have. So I guess my practice tip, I kind of want to hone in more on, what is accessible to everyone, because again, you don't know what you don't know. So I would say that there are resources that are available. Most of the divorces that take place without attorneys. They're what we call pro se, which means that they're unrepresented. And so, for example, there's a help desk at the courthouse, right? If you go to that help desk and you say, "Hey, I want to file for a divorce," they'll say, "Okay, here are the documents and the forms that you need to fill out." Right? So if you can just take a couple hours out of your day to get your ducks in a row, there are resources available to be able to guide you to where you need to get to. Additionally, there's resources online. There is a Colorado court website that has even just like a flow chart as to what documents are required for you to file in order to finalize your divorce. There are instructions, step-by-step instructions with links to forms as well. There is a free one-time use child support calculator. So you can calculate your child support and maintenance using an actual calculator instead of trying to have to go through the statutes and figure out what percentages of incomes bleed into what type of a calculation, right? So there are resources there. The one caveat and warning that I give to my clients, whether it's an unbundled capacity or they're kind of poking around, is that one-time use calculator is a one-time use calculator, which means that you cannot change the parties' names once you enter them. So for example, if you enter your other, parent's name as Jerkface, you will not be able to go back in and change it. So do it above board, put down all the names and the case numbers as they are, make sure your case caption is correct. But those are resources that are available to just anyone. There are also attorneys, myself included, who do unbundled legal services. And what that means is that you pay for the time that you need or that you want, right? So I do two versions of unbundled legal services. One of them is a consultation base. So my client prepays for an hour of my time. They come with their list of questions and we sit down and we go through all of the questions, any form documents, things of that nature, anything that they need for the hour plus. They just prepay and they have some sense of security and sense of peace knowing that what they're doing is the right way. The other form of unbundled legal services does require like a smaller retainer, but it's essentially you can send me documents that you've drafted and say, hey, am I missing anything in this? Or I have a mediation coming up. What do I need to expect? Can I get you on the phone for, half an hour? So there are a bunch of different forms of legal services that are available versus that full blown, this is going to be expensive because I need full legal representation for my divorce.
And I think that's so interesting and a great way to look at this. I think so many people don't understand that you can really start slow, right? You can just ask questions. You could just have some documents reviewed. And naturally, as you are talking to Nicoal and understanding how compassionate she is and just the wealth of knowledge she has, just continue on the process, but at your pace. And I think that's fantastic. I think the majority of people don't understand that is a possibility. And it's comforting to know about. And Nicoal, we just appreciate you so much. You are just a wealth of knowledge and such fresh air to just speak to someone that has such compassion about people and members of our community. And so we appreciate you. I'm going to include all your contact information in the show notes. But just if anybody's listening, what is the best way to reach you?
By email, usually. Email is the best. I'll include some of my staff on it so they can we're required to do client intakes and conflict checks and things of that nature. So it's the easiest way for me to be able to disseminate that information to my staff as well to get you on the schedule.
Excellent. And so I'll include all the information, her website and her email specifically, in the show notes. Thank you, Nicoal, so much for being a part of this community chat today.
Thank you.